blade entered Prince Adrian's chest beneath the royal insignia, slowly, deliberately. The man holding it wanted him to feel every inch. Adrian coughed blood across the marble floor of the throne hall. The crimson stain spread beneath his body, crawling through the golden grooves carved into the stone like a living curse. Around him, nobles laughed. Knights watched without moving. Servants lowered their heads. No one dared defend the useless prince. No one wanted to. "Look at him," Crown Prince Lucien said, twisting the blade deeper. "The final stain on our father's bloodline." More laughter erupted. Adrian's fingers scraped against the floor, his nails broke. His strength vanished with every breath. He had once been the third prince of the Valerian Empire. Now he was entertainment. A cripple without aura, a fool without magic, a royal parasite whose only skill had awakened as something called modern army summoning. The priests had called it meaningless. The court mages had called it defective. The generals had laughed until their stomachs hurt. There were no ancient dragons inside the skill, no holy swords, no celestial warriors. Only strange terms no one understood: rifles, artillery, armored divisions, air support, a useless collection of unknown words. Adrian had believed them. That had been his first mistake. Trusting Lucien had been his second. Loving Princess Eveline had been his last. She stood beside the throne now, wearing the silver necklace Adrian had given her. Her hand rested on Lucien's shoulder. Her face held no sorrow, only disgust. "You truly thought I loved you?" she asked. Adrian stared at her through blurred vision. He remembered the nights she had cried in his arms, the promises whispered beneath moonlight, the gentle way she had told him to surrender his military seal to Lucien for the good of the Empire. Every tear had been false. Every kiss had been poison. Eveline stepped closer and pressed her heel against Adrian's shattered hand. Bones cracked, pain exploded through his arm. The nobles laughed harder. "I endured your touch because His Highness needed your trust," she whispered. "Every moment beside you made me sick." Adrian's breathing stopped for a heartbeat, not because of the pain, because some dying fragment inside him had finally understood. There had never been a place for him in this palace. His elder brother had used him. His fiancée had betrayed him. His father had abandoned him. His mother had been poisoned, and Adrian had spent years believing she died from illness. Now Lucien leaned near his ear. "Our mother sends her regards." Adrian's eyes widened. Lucien smiled. "She begged exactly as you are begging now." Something inside Adrian broke, not his heart, that had already been crushed. Something softer, something weak, something human. Lucien pulled the blade free. Blood burst from the wound. Adrian collapsed flat against the marble. The throne hall began to fade. The laughter stretched into distant echoes. His final sight was Eveline wiping his blood from her shoe with the handkerchief he had once embroidered for her. His final thought was not a prayer, it was a promise. If hell allowed him one more breath, he would drag them all down with him. Darkness swallowed the throne hall. Then a cold voice spoke inside his skull. "Modern army summoning system has detected terminal hostility. Emergency authority recognized. Supreme Commander synchronization beginning." Adrian opened his eyes. He was no longer lying in blood. He was sitting at a banquet table. Music filled the grand hall. Crystal lamps burned overhead. Hundreds of nobles drank wine beneath silk banners bearing the golden lion of Valerion. Adrian did not move. His gaze lowered. His hands were unbroken. His chest was whole. He wore the white ceremonial uniform from his awakening banquet. The banquet held 7 years before his death. A silver goblet rested between his fingers. Across the hall, Crown Prince Lucien raised his glass and smiled. The same smile. The same banquet. The same night Adrian had revealed his supposedly useless skill. His heartbeat remained calm. No confusion, no trembling joy. Only silence, deep frozen, deadly. Adrian lifted the goblet and watched Lucien's reflection bend across the wine. He had returned. 7 years, 7 precious years. Enough time to build an army. Enough time to bury an empire. "Third Prince Adrian." The imperial herald's voice thundered through the hall. Conversation faded. Every face turned toward him. Adrian remembered this moment. He remembered standing nervously before the awakening crystal. He remembered hoping for a sword saint class like Lucien. He remembered the humiliation that followed. This time he rose without hesitation. Eveline sat near the imperial family, young and radiant, wearing an innocent smile. She waved at him. Adrian smiled back. It was gentle, warm, perfect. Only his eyes remained cold. Eveline relaxed. Lucien did not notice anything. No one did. The lamb had returned to the slaughterhouse wearing the same skin. But beneath it, something had changed. Adrian walked toward the awakening crystal. Emperor Cassian sat upon the raised throne, his expression bored. Lucian stood beside him in golden armor, already celebrated as the future of the empire. The high priest extended a wrinkled hand. "Place your palm upon the crystal, your highness." Adrian obeyed. The crystal flashed. Symbols spiraled across its surface. The high priest frowned. The court mages leaned closer. A metallic voice sounded only inside Adrian's mind. "Supreme Commander identified. Past life combat data recovered. System fully awakened. Initial command authority unlocked. Available forces restricted by territory, resources, and command level." Adrian's breath remained steady. A translucent panel appeared before him. No one else reacted. They could not see it. Infantry platoon available. Ammunition reserve available. Field medical unit available. Reconnaissance drone available. Command points available. Daily supply generation active. Adrian stared at the words. In his previous life, the system had never fully awakened. It had remained sealed because he lacked the one condition it required: absolute killing intent. The system had not been defective. He had been too soft, too trusting, too pathetic. The awakening crystal dimmed. The high priest read the result aloud. Unique summoning class. Modern army summoning. Silence. A court mage. What is a modern army? The crystal produced vague descriptions. Soldiers without aura, weapons without mana, vehicles requiring fuel, flying machines without wings, metal projectiles propelled by explosions. Confusion spread. Then laughter began. It started among the younger nobles. It spread to the officers. Soon the entire hall shook with mockery. A soldier without aura? A weapon that needs explosions? Metal carriages that require black liquid? What kind of pathetic class is that? Lucien covered his mouth, pretending to restrain his amusement. Emperor Cassian's expression hardened. Disappointment filled his eyes. Adrian remembered how deeply that look had wounded him. Now it meant nothing. A pig did not become valuable because it sat on a throne. The high priest coughed awkwardly. Perhaps the ability may possess some logistical value. Logistical value? General Marcellus barked. Will His Highness summon servants to carry our bags? The hall erupted again. Adrian stood before them, surrounded by laughter. His posture did not change. His face showed no humiliation. He simply listened. He memorized every voice. Every grin. Every finger pointed in his direction. These people would one day crawl through ash to kiss his boots. Lucien descended from the throne platform and placed a hand on Adrian's shoulder. "My dear brother, do not despair." His voice was kind. His eyes were gleaming. "Not every prince is born to fight. You may still serve the empire through diplomacy. Or perhaps agriculture." More laughter. Adrian lowered his head. To the crowd he looked ashamed. In truth, he was hiding his smile. "You are right, brother," Adrian said softly. "I was foolish to expect more." Lucien blinked. In the previous life, Adrian had protested. He had argued that his skill might be powerful. He had begged the emperor for a chance to prove himself. His desperation had made the humiliation sweeter. This time, Adrian surrendered instantly. Lucien's satisfaction weakened, just slightly. But Adrian noticed. Predators hated prey that refused to scream. Emperor Cassian struck the arm of his throne. "Enough. The third prince will be granted the abandoned northern territory of Greyhaven." Murmurs swept through the hall. Greyhaven. A frozen wasteland near the border. Its mines were exhausted, its fields were dead. Its roads belonged to bandits. Its villages paid taxes in bones. In Adrian's previous life, the decree had destroyed him. He had believed it was exile. Now he almost laughed. Greyhaven had iron beneath its mountains, coal beneath its valleys, oil beneath its frozen marshes. Resources the people of this world considered worthless. Resources his system could devour. The emperor continued. "You will depart after the winter festival. Govern the territory quietly. Do not embarrass the imperial family further." Adrian bowed. "As you command, your majesty." No anger. No pleading, no resistance. Lucien watched him carefully now. Adrian had once worshipped their father. Being cast aside should have shattered him. Yet his expression remained peaceful. Eveline approached as Adrian returned to his seat. Her eyes glistened with manufactured sympathy. She reached for his hand. "Adrian, I am so sorry." He allowed her fingers to touch his. His skin crawled. He remembered those fingers pressing poison against his mother's lips. He remembered them searching his office for military documents. He remembered them wrapped around Lucien's neck while Adrian bled to death. He gently squeezed her hand. "You stayed beside me," he said. "That is enough." Relief flashed across her face. The fool still trusted her. "Good." Eveline leaned close. "Greyhaven is dangerous. Perhaps you should transfer your royal guards to Crown Prince Lucien before you leave. He can protect them better." There it was. The first theft. In his previous life, Adrian had surrendered his best guards. Lucien later used those same men to monitor him. Adrian looked toward Lucien. Then he smiled, of course. Evelyn's eyes brightened. But I will need a few days to prepare the documents. Take all the time you need. She kissed his cheek. Adrian fought the urge to break her neck. Not yet, death was too merciful. They had taken years from him. He would repay them slowly. The banquet continued. Adrian sat alone while nobles avoided his table. Behind his calm expression, he explored the system. A map appeared in his vision. The palace, the capital, the roads leading north. Greyhaven glowed at the edge of the empire. A command notification pulsed. First strategic objective available. Secure an independent base of operations. Reward includes expanded infantry capacity, engineering core access, weapons manufacturing blueprint, and satellite reconnaissance fragment. Adrian selected the objective. Another notification appeared. Emergency summoning trial available. Would the commander like to summon an infantry squad? Adrian glanced around. Summoning armed soldiers in the banquet hall would expose him. He dismissed the notification. Then he noticed another option, remote deployment. A quiet laugh nearly escaped him. He selected a forest outside the capital. The system consumed command points. Far beyond the palace walls, space twisted between ancient trees. Men in dark combat uniforms stepped onto the frozen soil. They carried rifles. Body armor covered their chests. Night vision devices rested above their eyes. No aura surrounded them. No mana leaked from their weapons. Yet each soldier moved with discipline that would shame the royal guard. Their squad leader touched the device near his ear. Vanguard squad deployed. Awaiting orders, Commander. The voice entered Adrian's mind through the system. Clear. Obedient. Real. Adrian closed his eyes for a moment. In his previous life, he had died alone. Now trained soldiers waited for his command. Not nobles bound by profit. Not knights chained by family loyalty. Soldiers created for war. Soldiers who would never betray him. Adrian issued his first order. Establish observation posts around the northern road. Remain unseen. Report all movement connected to Crown Prince Lucien. Understood. The connection ended. Adrian opened his eyes. The banquet hall looked different now. The nobles were no longer people. They were targets. The knights were no longer threats. They were outdated weapons. The empire itself was no longer his home. It was an enemy position waiting to be conquered. Lucien raised his goblet from across the hall. Adrian raised his own. Two brothers smiled at each other beneath the golden light. One believed he had crushed a rival. The other was calculating artillery ranges. Later that night, Adrian returned to his chambers. His personal servant, Elias, waited inside. The old man bowed. Your Highness, I heard about Greyhaven. Elias had served Adrian's mother. In the previous life, he had died protecting Adrian from assassins. One of the few loyal souls in the palace. Adrian studied him in silence. Elias mistook the silence for grief. Your Highness, even if the entire empire abandons you, this old servant will follow. Adrian turned toward the window. Snow drifted over the capital. Beyond the walls, his summoned soldiers moved through darkness. Elias. Yes, Your Highness, prepare for departure. So soon? We leave before dawn. Elias looked stunned. The Emperor ordered you to depart after the winter festival. The Emperor also believes Greyhaven is worthless. Adrian opened a hidden drawer and removed the seal of the third prince. He is wrong about many things. Elias hesitated. What about Princess Eveline? She will receive a letter. A farewell letter? No. Adrian placed the royal seal inside his coat. A love letter. Elias looked confused. Adrian did not explain. The letter would assure Eveline that he remained obedient. It would promise her access to his territory. It would tell Lucien exactly what he wanted to hear. A weak prince was fleeing north. A broken fool was surrendering everything. A harmless lamb was walking willingly into exile. Let them believe it. Let them celebrate. Let them divide his guards, steal his estates, and drink wine over his humiliation. Every gift Adrian surrendered would be coated in poison. Every road they took would lead deeper into his trap. Every smile they gave him would become evidence at their trial. The system chimed again. Hidden threat detected. Multiple assassins approaching the third prince's residence. Estimated arrival before dawn. Adrian looked toward the dark courtyard. In the previous life, these assassins had attacked after he refused to surrender his guards. He had survived only because Elias sacrificed himself. This time, Adrian felt no fear. He contacted the squad outside the capital. Vanguard. Awaiting orders, Commander. Return to the Palace District. Rules of engagement. Adrian watched shadows move across the distant rooftops. His voice remained quiet. Capture one. And the others? A cold smile touched his lips. Use them for target practice. Beyond the palace walls, rifles were raised, suppressors locked into place. Soldiers vanished into the snow. Adrian lifted a cup of wine and sat beside the window. The assassins were coming. Lucien was watching. Eveline was plotting. The emperor was sleeping peacefully on a throne built from betrayal. Adrian drank. The wine tasted sweeter than he remembered. He had once begged fate for justice. Now he understood. Justice was a bedtime story for the powerless. He did not need justice. He needed ammunition. And this time, he had an army. The first assassin died without understanding what had killed him. One moment he was crossing the tiled roof of the western residence. The next, a hole opened beneath his eye. No flash of mana. No sword aura, no warning. His body folded into the snow. The second assassin turned. A soft cough came from the darkness. His throat burst. He fell beside the first. The third tried to shout. A black-gloved hand covered his mouth. Steel struck the base of his skull. He was dragged backward before his companions noticed. The remaining killers scattered across the rooftops. They were elite shadows raised by the Imperial Intelligence Bureau. Men trained to enter fortresses, poison generals, and vanish before dawn. Against ordinary guards, they were monsters. Against Adrian's soldiers, they were targets. Vanguard squad moved through the night like death wearing discipline. Rifles whispered. Bodies dropped. Snow swallowed the blood. The last assassin reached the edge of the palace district and leaped toward a narrow alley. A soldier stepped from behind a stone pillar. The assassin drew 2 daggers. The soldier fired once into his knee. Bones shattered, the assassin screamed. A rifle stock smashed into his jaw. Silence returned. Inside his chamber, Adrian continued drinking wine. Through the system, he saw everything. The angles, the distances, the heat signatures, the terrified faces. The modern battlefield unfolded before him with perfect clarity. This was not a duel. It was not a contest of honor. It was extermination. A message appeared. Hostile unit eliminated. Combat efficiency evaluated. Command experience increased. Additional infantry capacity unlocked. Adrian's smile deepened. His enemies had sent him assassins. The system had turned them into training material. Elias stood behind him, pale and speechless. He had heard muted sounds outside. He had seen shadows fall from roofs, yet no alarm had been raised. No royal guard had arrived. "Your Highness," Elias whispered. "What is happening?" Adrian placed the empty cup on the table. Elias clenched his fists. "I will summon the palace guard." "No. They must know. They already know." Elias froze. Adrian looked toward the imperial tower glowing beyond the courtyard. The crown prince controlled the guards stationed near his residence. The emperor controlled the rest. That silence was an answer. Adrian rose. "Bring the carriage. Now, now. What about the bodies?" "There are no bodies." Outside, the summoned soldiers dragged the dead assassins into an abandoned sewer passage. Weapons were collected. Clothing was removed. Identifying marks were photographed through the system. One prisoner remained alive. Adrian ordered him transported beyond the city. The squad obeyed without question. Before the sky brightened, a plain carriage left the western palace gate. No ceremony followed. No royal escort surrounded it. Only Elias sat beside the driver. Adrian rested inside beneath a dark cloak. The palace guards barely inspected the carriage. They believed the useless prince was fleeing in shame. A messenger carried Adrian's letter to Eveline. Another carried legal documents transferring his remaining royal guards to Lucien. A final document surrendered several profitable estates near the capital. It looked like despair. It looked like submission. It looked like a broken prince giving away everything he owned. Lucien accepted immediately. By noon, the crown prince held a feast. Adrian saw the celebration through reports from Vanguard Squad. He saw Lucien open the estate documents. He saw Eveline laugh while reading Adrian's letter. He saw General Marcellus praise the crown prince for removing a burden from the empire. They thought they had won. They did not know the estates were drowning in hidden debt. They did not know corrupt administrators had emptied their granaries. They did not know the transferred guards included spies loyal to rival nobles. Adrian had inherited those problems in his previous life. They had ruined him slowly. Now he had placed the entire poison chalice in Lucien's hands. The crown prince drank without hesitation. The carriage traveled north. The capital disappeared behind snow-covered hills. Adrian opened the system map. Greyhaven pulsed in the distance. The territory was larger than several southern duchies combined. Its people were poor. Its roads were broken. Its officials were corrupt. Its military consisted of starving conscripts and aging knights. To the Empire, it was a graveyard. To Adrian, it was raw material. The system displayed available construction options. Field command post, supply depot, medical station, fuel refinery, ammunition workshop, vehicle maintenance yard. Most remained locked. All required resources: iron, coal, timber, oil, labor, territory authority. Adrian possessed little of each. That would change. The carriage stopped at an abandoned hunting lodge beyond the capital's patrol range. Vanguard squad waited inside. The soldiers stood at attention when Adrian entered. Their equipment was clean. Their movements were sharp. Their faces held no curiosity, only readiness. Commander on site, the squad leader said. Adrian studied them. They were not magical constructs without thought. They possessed tactical instincts. They communicated, they adapted. Yet their loyalty was absolute. What is your name? Adrian asked. Captain Marcus Hale. Adrian nodded. Report. Hostile force neutralized. One prisoner secured. Enemy weapons and documents recovered. No friendly casualties. The captured assassin knelt in the next room. His hands were bound behind his back. Blood covered his mouth. He stared at the soldiers with naked fear. He had fought knights. He had escaped battle mages. He had never seen men kill so quietly. Adrian the assassin spat at his boots. Useless bastard. Adrian sat across from him. The insult carried no weight. He had heard worse while dying. Who sent you? The assassin smiled through broken teeth. Go to hell, Adrian nodded. Then he opened the system interface. Interrogation support available. Psychological pressure module unavailable. Field medicine available. Adrian looked toward the door. Medic. A soldier entered carrying a compact medical bag. Keep him alive. The assassin's smile disappeared. Adrian did not threaten him. He did not shout. He simply asked the same question again. The assassin refused. The medic treated every wound. Then Adrian began removing things that could be treated. A finger, a piece of skin, a strip of flesh. Each time the assassin began to faint, the medic stabilized him. Each time he begged for death, Adrian waited. There was no anger in Adrian's face. That terrified the assassin more than the pain. Rage could be understood. Cruelty could be endured. Adrian treated suffering like paperwork. After a long time, the assassin spoke. Lucien's private secretary had delivered the order. The assassins belonged to a hidden bureau funded through imperial trade accounts. Their mission was to kill Adrian and make it appear that northern bandits had attacked him. Eveline had provided details about his departure preparations. Adrian listened until the man had nothing left to offer. Then he stood. The assassin collapsed forward. I told you everything. Yes, you promised nothing would happen to me. I promised nothing. The assassin's face twisted. Adrian left the room. A muted shot followed. No guilt touched him. The weak man he had once been would have spared the assassin. That man had died on the throne hall floor. The lodge became Adrian's first temporary command post. System engineers could not yet be summoned, so Adrian used soldiers. They mapped roads, surveyed bridges, marked water sources, tracked patrol routes. Reconnaissance drones rose into the winter sky. They were small, silent, invisible from the ground at night. Through their cameras, Adrian watched the world from above. He saw bandit camps hidden in forests. He saw tax convoys traveling south. He saw abandoned mines near Greyhaven. He saw villages with collapsed roofs. He saw noble estates storing grain while peasants starved outside their walls. Information poured into the system. Every road became a line. Every enemy became a marker. Every resource became an opportunity. Adrian spent command points carefully. He summoned another infantry squad, then another. He deployed scouts ahead of the carriage. He established hidden supply caches. He ordered soldiers to avoid contact with civilians. Rumors still spread. Travelers spoke of strange shadows moving through forests. Bandits vanished from roadside camps. Wolf packs were found dead with tiny holes in their skulls. Merchants crossed dangerous roads without being attacked. No one understood why. Adrian understood. The system rewarded secured territory. Each cleared route expanded his effective command zone. Each destroyed bandit camp provided equipment, coin, and prisoners. Each discovered resource deposit increased strategic value. His power grew in silence. At the same time, Lucian's stolen rewards began to rot. The transferred estates demanded emergency funds. Their workers had not been paid. A warehouse burned. A steward escaped with tax revenue. The guards Adrian surrendered began fighting among themselves. One was caught selling patrol routes to smugglers. Another was secretly loyal to Duke Varos, Lucian's greatest political rival. Lucian could not discard them without appearing ungrateful. He could not keep them without risking betrayal. Adrian received every report through soldiers hidden in the capital. He read them beside a campfire and felt nothing but satisfaction. Eveline sent letters. At first they were sweet. She wrote that she missed him. She praised his sacrifice. She promised to visit Greyhaven after winter. Adrian replied with devotion. He told her he dreamed of their wedding. He begged her to advise Lucienne. He claimed he was frightened and lonely. The more pathetic his letters became, the more careless she grew. She began asking about Greyhaven's finances, its mines, its defenses, its local nobles. Adrian answered with carefully designed lies. He described empty vaults, hostile villagers, a dying garrison. Most of it was true. That made the lies stronger. He never mentioned the soldiers moving through the forests. He never mentioned the drones. He never mentioned the system's daily supply generation. He never mentioned the black liquid found beneath the frozen marshes. The people of Greyhaven called it devil mud. It poisoned wells, it ruined farmland. It burned with a foul smell. They had spent years trying to remove it. The system identified it instantly. Crude oil resource confirmed. Strategic priority elevated. Fuel production path unlocked. Adrian stood on a ridge overlooking the northern marsh. Wind pulled at his cloak. Below him, black pools reflected the gray sky. Elias covered his nose. The locals consider this land cursed. They are correct, Adrian said. Elias looked worried. Adrian smiled. It will curse our enemies. The system projected refinery plans across his vision. Pipes, processing units, power requirements. Construction remained impossible without engineers. The next command objective required Adrian to secure Greyhaven's administrative capital. That city was controlled by Count Hadric. In the previous life, Hadric had greeted Adrian with false respect. Then he had stolen taxes, starved soldiers, and secretly sold military supplies to bandits. When Adrian tried to remove him, Hadric accused him of abusing royal authority. Lucian intervened. Adrian was forced to apologize. This time, Adrian would not ask permission. He summoned a reconnaissance drone and sent it toward Greyhaven City. The aerial view appeared before him. Stone walls surrounded cramped streets. Guard towers leaned under snow. The barracks were nearly empty. Hadric's manor, however, blazed with light. Carriages crowded the courtyard. Music carried through open windows. While the city froze, the Count was holding a banquet. Adrian watched servants bring roasted meat into the manor. Outside the gates, children searched garbage pits for food. Elias saw Adrian's expression. Your Highness? Send word ahead? Yes. What should I tell him? Adrian looked at the manor through the drone's eye. Tell him the useless prince is coming. Elias hesitated. And the soldiers? They remain hidden. Count Hadric received the message before sunset. His response arrived quickly. He claimed illness. He said the city lacked proper accommodations. He advised Adrian to remain at a distant border fortress until spring. The insult was obvious. A territorial lord had ordered a prince to stay outside his own capital. Elias expected anger. Adrian laughed. Then he wrote a respectful reply. He apologized for the inconvenience. He agreed to travel to the fortress. He thanked Hadric for his wise guidance. The Count's confidence soared. A spy intercepted the celebration inside the manor. Hadric called Adrian a toothless dog. His officials raised cups to the prince's cowardice. They began planning how to seize the royal subsidies Adrian would bring north. Adrian allowed them to plan. He directed his carriage away from the city. Then, under cover of night, Vanguard squad entered the sewer channels beneath Greyhaven. Another squad occupied the abandoned watchtower east of the walls. Snipers took positions. Drones mapped every guard station. Soldiers photographed ledgers through manor windows. A clerk leaving Hadric's office was captured, questioned, and returned before sunrise without remembering the missing hours. Within 3 nights, Adrian knew everything. Hidden grain stores, illegal taxes, bandit agreements, slave routes, names of corrupt officers, locations of secret vaults. Hadric believed Adrian had retreated. In reality, the prince had already placed a rifle above his bed. The system chimed. Enemy administrative network mapped. Regional control progress increased. Special unit trial unlocked. Combat engineer team available for temporary deployment. Adrian accepted. Men carrying equipment appeared inside an abandoned mine. They inspected the tunnels. They tested the rock. They confirmed deposits of iron and coal that local miners had missed because they lacked modern surveying tools. Extraction plans formed. Ventilation routes appeared. Reinforcement designs unfolded. The so-called exhausted mines were not empty. The previous workers had simply dug in the wrong direction. Adrian used captured bandit coin to hire desperate laborers through intermediaries. No one knew the prince was involved. The workers were paid fairly. Food was provided. Injuries were treated by system medics operating from hidden camps. Production began, slowly at first. Then faster coal-filled storage pits, iron ore moved through covered wagons. Timber arrived from cleared bandit forests. The system converted resources into command infrastructure. A concealed barracks rose beneath the abandoned mine. An ammunition workshop unlocked. Daily ammunition production began. Rifle magazines filled crate after crate. Grenades appeared. Medical supplies multiplied. Another infantry platoon became available. Adrian watched the numbers rise, not in gold, in firepower. Every piece of ore became a bullet. Every tree became a defensive wall. Every bandit corpse became safer territory. Every lie told by his enemies bought him more time. Far away, Lucien complained about the estates Adrian had surrendered. Evelyn reassured him. Greyhaven will destroy Adrian before spring. Lucien stared into the palace fire. He is too calm. He is weak. He was weak. Eveline smiled and rested her head against his shoulder. A useless man does not become dangerous simply because he stops crying. Lucien wanted to believe her. So he did. In the north, Adrian stood inside his underground command post. Electric lights burned overhead. Maps covered the walls. Soldiers moved between supply crates. A live drone feed showed Count Hadric drinking himself unconscious. Another displayed bandits preparing to attack a grain caravan. A third watched black smoke rise from the first hidden fuel test. Captain Marcus approached. "Commander, the bandit force is moving. How many?" "Enough to overwhelm the local escort." Adrian studied the map. The caravan belonged to Hadric. The grain had been stolen from starving villages. The bandits intended to seize it through a secret agreement, then sell half back to the Count. In his previous life, Adrian had tried to stop this corruption through law. Hadric had destroyed the evidence. This time, Adrian selected an artillery trial. The system issued a warning. Limited ammunition. Extreme sound exposure. Risk of revealing advanced capability. Adrian accepted. Far inside a hidden valley, soldiers prepared a mortar position. Coordinates appeared. Wind calculations adjusted. The bandits surrounded the caravan. Their leader raised his sword. Adrian gave the order. A thunderous sound rolled across the mountains. The first shell descended. The bandit leader vanished inside fire and dirt. Men screamed. Horses fled. The second shell struck the road behind them. The third shattered the rocky slope above. Panic consumed the bandits. They dropped weapons. They crawled beneath wagons. They prayed to every god they knew. Adrian watched through the drone. The weapon was primitive compared with what the system promised. Yet to this world, it was divine punishment. His soldiers moved in after the bombardment. Survivors were captured. The stolen grain was recovered. Before dawn, wagons delivered it to hungry villages. No banner accompanied them. No prince claimed credit. Only a message was carved into each wagon. "The North remembers." Villagers whispered the words. Hadric heard them and grew uneasy. Lucien ignored them. Eveline laughed. Adrian stood beneath the earth, while ammunition machines worked behind him. The useless skill had begun to breathe. The abandoned prince had begun to build. And the poisoned chalice he had handed his enemies was already burning through their throats. Winter tightened its grip over Greyhaven. The rivers froze. The roads vanished beneath snow. The nobles locked themselves behind stone walls and waited for peasants to die quietly. Prince Adrian built an empire beneath their feet. The abandoned mine no longer resembled a ruin. Steel beams reinforced its tunnels. Electric lamps burned through the darkness. Ventilation fans dragged smoke from underground workshops. Ammunition presses worked without rest. Crates of cartridges filled chambers once abandoned to rats. Soldiers marched through hidden corridors in perfect formation. Medics treated workers inside clean field hospitals. Engineers drilled deeper into the mountain and uncovered veins of iron thicker than castle walls. The people above knew nothing. They only saw wagons moving at night. They heard distant thunder beneath the earth. They whispered that an ancient beast had awakened under Greyhaven. They were not entirely wrong. The system had awakened, and it was hungry. Adrian stood inside the command center while maps glowed across a long steel table. Every village appeared as a point of light. Every road carried moving markers. Every corrupt official had a file. Every bandit camp had already been measured for destruction. The system displayed his expanding authority. Regional stability rising, resource production increasing, civilian trust increasing. Military secrecy maintained. New command options unlocked, motorized transport. Heavy machine guns, field artillery, expanded engineering corps. Armored vehicle research. Adrian examined each option without excitement. Power was useful only when controlled. A fool celebrated the weapon in his hand. A ruler calculated how many weapons his enemies believed he possessed. Captain Marcus stood beside him. Our current ammunition output can support sustained operations across the Eastern District. Not enough. We can increase production if the southern mine is secured. Secure it. The mine belongs to Baron Edric. Adrian looked at the red marker on the map. Baron Edric had not visited the mine in years. He still collected taxes from it. He still claimed its workers as property. He still sent armed men to beat families who failed to meet impossible quotas. In Adrian's previous life, the Baron had joined Count Hodrick in accusing him of stealing noble property. The Emperor had supported them. Adrian had apologized. Now his finger touched the marker. Remove him. Marcus did not ask whether Adrian meant politically. Before dawn, Baron Edric's private carriage left his manor. It never reached the city. A fallen tree blocked the mountain road. The Baron's guards dismounted. Suppressed rifles fired from the cliffs. The guards fell before drawing steel. Edric was dragged from the carriage and forced to kneel in the snow. He screamed his title. He threatened imperial punishment. He promised gold. He demanded a duel. No one answered. A hooded soldier placed ledgers before him. Records of illegal taxes. Records of slave purchases. Records of grain stolen from villages. Edric stared at the pages. Who are you? A voice came through a speaker hidden in the soldier's equipment. Adrian's voice. Your prince? Edric's face became pale. Your Highness, this is a misunderstanding. You sold children to southern merchants. They were debt servants. You burned a village after its people resisted. They attacked my men. You poisoned a well to force farmers from valuable land. The Baron trembled. Adrian's tone never changed. Do you have anything useful to say? Edric began to beg. He offered estates, vaults, political secrets. The names of nobles who had bribed imperial inspectors. Adrian allowed him to speak. Every confession was recorded. Every hidden asset was marked. When the Baron finished, he cried with relief. He thought information had purchased his life. Adrian remembered his mother's funeral. Edric had stood beside Lucien that day. He had smiled while Adrian wept. Thank you, Adrian said. The Baron lifted his head. A single shot ended the conversation. By sunrise, rumors spread that bandits had killed Baron Edric. Count Hodrick sent guards to claim the southern mine. They found hundreds of workers waiting at the gates. The workers carried no swords. They carried documents. Every document declared the mine abandoned due to the death of its owner and transferred temporary authority to a worker council. The signatures belonged to legal clerks in the capital. The seals were authentic. The clerks had been bribed through funds stolen from Hadrick's own vault. The Count's guards could do nothing without exposing the Baron's crimes. They withdrew. That night, Adrian's engineers entered the mine. Production tripled. The workers received wages. Their families received food. A clinic opened beside the settlement. Broken houses were repaired. For the first time in years, no child died during the coldest week of winter. The workers did not know who had saved them. They only knew the supplies bore the same message. The North remembers. Those words spread faster than any royal decree. They appeared on grain wagons, on medicine crates, on repaired wells, on the doors of bandit leaders who vanished during the night. To the poor, they became a promise. To corrupt nobles, they became a threat. Adrian allowed both interpretations. The system rewarded loyalty. Every village that accepted his hidden protection expanded the command network. Every road secured by patrols improved supply generation. Every mine increased manufacturing capacity. Every grateful civilian became an eye. Soon, Adrian knew when a stranger entered Greyhaven before the local guards did. Fishermen reported unusual boats. Farmers marked noble tax convoys. Children counted soldiers passing through villages. Old women remembered faces. The most neglected people in the empire became his intelligence network. He paid them with protection. They repaid him with truth. His so-called useless skill evolved. Modern army summoning had once sounded absurd because no one understood what an army truly was. The empire believed an army meant knights. Proud men wearing expensive armor. Nobles competing for glory. Mages throwing fire while servants carried their tents. Adrian's army was different. It ate through logistics. It breathed information. It moved as one organism. A farmer with a radio could become more valuable than a swordmaster. A mechanic could preserve more power than a heroic knight. A single mortar team could destroy a cavalry charge before the riders saw an enemy. Modern war was not a collection of warriors. It was a machine. Adrian was building that machine piece by piece. The first hidden fortress rose inside Mount Vera. From the outside, the mountain remained untouched. Snow covered its slopes. Pine trees concealed ventilation shafts. Rock formations hid steel doors. Inside, tunnels opened into vast chambers. Barracks lined the lower level. Workshops occupied the eastern wing. Fuel tanks rested behind reinforced walls. A command bunker sat beneath layers of stone, as emergency food storage could sustain thousands. Water came from an underground spring. Power came from coal generators improved by system engineers. The fortress did not depend on the Empire. That mattered more than walls. Adrian named it Iron Haven. The name never appeared on official maps. Only soldiers and trusted workers knew it existed. Even they understood only fragments. No one outside Adrian's command circle knew the full scale. Captain Marcus supervised military operations. Elias managed civilian relief and financial networks. A former mine foreman named Garrick organized labor. A healer named Mira directed clinics across the northern villages. Adrian had met Mira after one of Hadrick's tax collectors seized medicine from her settlement. She had attacked the collector with a kitchen knife. The collector broke her arm. She still tried to bite him. Adrian's soldiers killed the collector before he could finish beating her. Mira woke inside a field hospital. Clean sheets covered the bed. Strange machines measured her heartbeat. A medic explained that her village had received medicine. She demanded to meet the person responsible. Adrian visited in simple black clothing. She did not recognize him as a prince. "Why did you help us?" she asked. "Because healthy workers are more useful than corpses." Mira stared at him. "That is a cruel answer. It is an honest one." She laughed despite the pain. Then she asked to join him. Mira possessed a rare healing gift considered too weak for combat. She could accelerate natural recovery. Court healers mocked abilities like hers because they could not close mortal wounds instantly. Adrian saw something else. Combined with modern medicine, sanitation, surgery, antibiotics, and disciplined triage, her talent became extraordinary. The system analyzed her ability. Biological recovery enhancement compatible with field medical doctrine. Medical unit efficiency increased. What the Empire called a useless healing skill reduced recovery time across entire hospitals. Soldiers returned to duty faster. Workers survived injuries that once meant death. Disease vanished from protected settlements. Mira became commander of the Northern Medical Corps. She wore no silk dress. She carried no jeweled staff. She walked through blood with rolled sleeves and issued orders like a general. The soldiers respected her. The workers adored her. The nobles would have called her common. Adrian called her valuable. One night she found him studying casualty projections inside the command bunker. "You have not slept," she said. "Sleep is scheduled later. That is not how sleep works, it is how mine works." She placed a cup of hot tea beside him. Adrian glanced at it. "Poison? Enough to kill an arrogant prince. Then you need a larger cup." Mira smiled. Unlike Eveline, her smile asked for nothing. That made Adrian more cautious. Kindness had once been the blade used against him. He refused to trust it easily. Still, he drank the tea. Nothing happened. Myra leaned over the map. Red markers covered the region. "What are those places where people will die if I make mistakes?" Her smile faded. "Then do not make mistakes." Adrian looked at no praise, no flattery, only expectation. He found it strangely tolerable. While Ironhaven grew, Count Hadrick continued living inside his illusion. He believed the prince remained at the distant fortress. He received forged reports describing Adrian as sick, isolated, and terrified. He intercepted letters in which Adrian begged Eveline for money. He laughed as he read them aloud during banquets. The Count never questioned why bandits vanished. He blamed rival gangs. He never questioned why tax revenue declined. He blamed winter. He never questioned why villages stopped sending desperate petitions. He assumed they had finally accepted their suffering. Arrogance protected Adrian better than any wall. Lucien suffered from the same disease. The estates Adrian had transferred became a growing disaster. Creditors arrived at the palace. Workers protested unpaid wages. A hidden smuggling network was discovered beneath one warehouse. Duke Veros used the scandal to attack Lucien at court. The emperor demanded explanations. Lucien blamed administrators. The administrators produced documents bearing his seal. Eveline advised patience. She insisted that everything would improve once they seized Greyhaven's royal subsidies. There was only one problem. No subsidies came. Adrian had redirected the funds through obscure emergency laws. On paper, the money repaired northern roads. In reality, those roads became military supply lines. On paper, the money purchased grain. In reality, the grain filled fortress storage. On paper, the money funded border security. In reality, it purchased the future. Lucien sent a letter demanding an account. Adrian replied immediately. He apologized. He described blizzards. He blamed local corruption. He promised to surrender all remaining authority once spring arrived. Lucien smiled when he read it. He is preparing his own chains. Eveline kissed his cheek. He always does what we expect. Far beneath Mount Vera, Adrian watched the first armored vehicle roll from the assembly chamber. It was not elegant. It was not fast. Steel plates covered its frame. Tracks crushed stone beneath its weight. A mounted heavy machine gun faced forward. Its engine roared through the cavern. Workers stepped back in awe. Soldiers saluted. The system presented its designation. Prototype armored personnel carrier. Locally manufactured components accepted. Combat deployment authorized. Adrian walked around the vehicle. The Empire's greatest cavalry could not pierce its armor. Battle mages might damage it. Knights might climb it. But they had never seen a machine that ignored fear, exhaustion, and charging horses. This was only the beginning. Beyond it waited tanks, rocket artillery, long-range missiles, weapons that would make dragons look small. But Adrian did not need them yet. A knife was enough when the enemy offered its throat. The system issued a new strategic objective: establish sovereign regional command. Requirements included complete control of Greyhaven's capital, destruction of the noble corruption network, public recognition of the commander's authority, and defense against the approaching northern calamity. Adrian paused. Approaching calamity. The system map changed. A vast black region appeared beyond the northern mountains. Signals moved beneath the frozen earth. Heat signatures gathered in impossible numbers. Historical records surfaced from his previous life. Adrian remembered. During the spring thaw, monsters had poured from the Black Rift. Count Hadric concealed the early warnings. He feared panic would reduce tax collection. By the time the Empire responded, entire cities had been devoured. Lucien arrived after the worst fighting ended. He claimed victory. Adrian had been blamed for failing to defend his territory. Now the same disaster was coming again. Only this time Greyhaven was not defenseless. Adrian looked around Ironhaven. Rifles lined the armory. Artillery waited beneath camouflage nets. Fuel-filled reinforced tanks. Armored vehicles stood ready. Soldiers trained day and night. Clinics stocked medicine. Villages stored food. Observers watched every mountain pass. The Empire believed the North was dying. In truth, it had never been more alive. Adrian touched the black region on the map. Estimated hostile emergence moved closer. The countdown had begun. Above ground, Count Hadric raised another cup. He toasted his wealth. He toasted Lucien. He toasted the useless prince who had surrendered without a fight. His guests laughed. None of them heard the engines beneath the mountain. None of them saw the artillery aimed toward the northern passes. None of them understood that the land they had starved was becoming a fortress. Adrian stood before the soldiers of Ironhaven. Thousands of boots struck the floor as they came to attention. No noble banners hung above them. No family crests divided them. Only the black insignia of Northern Command. Adrian looked across the formation. Miners stood beside summoned infantry. Former bandits stood beside engineers. Village hunters stood beside medics. People the Empire had discarded had become parts of something greater. The useless prince raised one hand. Silence fell instantly. The Empire abandoned this land, Adrian said. His voice carried through the chamber. The nobles sold its people. The crown left it to die. No one is coming to save the North. The soldiers watched him. So we will save it ourselves. Fists tightened, eyes burned. Adrian's expression remained cold. And when the men who abandoned us come crawling for protection, we will decide how much their lives are worth. A roar shook the fortress. It rolled through the mountain. It reached the snowy slopes outside. Far beneath the frozen earth, something ancient heard it. Something hungry moved toward Greyhaven. The storm was coming. Count Hadric still believed he ruled the north. Lucien still believed Adrian was broken. Evelyn still believed the fool loved her. Let them dream. Adrian had built his empire in the darkness. Soon the darkness would open its jaws. This content can't be shown for safety reasons. If this seems like a mistake, give this response a thumbs down. Learn more about our intended model behavior in our model spec.